Hello quilting friends and welcome back to my channel. My name's Rachel and I make videos about quilting and my creative life, and today there's a brand new location and I am so excited to share it with you. So some of you may have followed from previous videos where I said that I was doing an experiment with going full-time with doing content creation, sharing videos and all of my sewing creations online, and my little trial period has been successful. So that means the spare bedroom in our house can now be devoted to my sewing room. Previous to this, I was quilting downstairs on my dining table, which was like the back half of my living room. So in that room we also had sofas, TVs, you know, where we did all of our day-to-day life. It got in the way just a little bit. It's never just your sewing machine, is it? It's all the other things that come with it. So I did have to get very creative with all of my storage solutions. And some of you may know that I kept my fabric underneath my bed. And that now has a dedicated room and I'm so excited. It's taken around 2 weeks to get it all sorted, from emptying the room, doing all the decorating and things and putting all the IKEA bits in. So I wanted to give you a bit of a tour. I'll show you the furniture pieces, the names, but I'm also going to be one of those people where I show you what is inside every cupboard, because those are the types of videos that I also really enjoy. And this pretty much will be now where I film most of my videos. So it is really nice and light, it's bright, it's a really dull and overcast day, but it's still really nice and bright in here. So hopefully it'll be good for filming. So don't be surprised when you see a change in location. So without further ado, let me just give you an overview of the room, talk about the furniture pieces, and then we'll get into all of the nosy bits and bobs and I'll show you everything, because you might not have saw a lot of my stash because I had it hidden away. Even I couldn't see a lot of my stash. Okay, so just to give you a little bit of an overview of the room, I'm just standing with my back to the door to the room. The room is 3 meters by 3 meters, but there's some cutouts in the room which you'll see in a moment. So as you first walk into the room, you're greeted with a beautiful jelly roll rug, and then I've got a nice corner unit. These are the Billy IKEA bookshelves. They've got the extensions on the top and also the doors, which are half glass, half panelled. This is a specific corner unit, but you can't put doors in the centre one just because of how the doors open. Next to that, we've got a unit which is called V-House, I think. And that is just a sideboard type of unit from IKEA. My desk is made up of the Linman desktops and the Alex drawers on the side. I've just got the height adjustable legs in the back corner, and I've actually got 3 legs on that back corner because just above there I've got another Billy bookcase, which is just a much smaller bookshelf. So that the table needed to be able to take the weight, but also there's a table leg in the middle of the desk. And that's where I've positioned my sewing machine. I've took the chair out of the room just to make the video a little bit easier to see around. And now just facing towards the door that we came in through. This here is an inbuilt cupboard for our central heating. And then I've just got a Hemnes drawer unit there. I've adjusted my design wall and cut it down so it fits in that space. But of course that won't fit a full quilt, but it'll be good for partial quilts and just little blocks. And that's the door that you come in through. And then we've got 2 built-in cupboards here. The one is just a utility cupboard. It's got like the printer, just other bits and bobs. And then the other one is actually a wardrobe. So none of those cupboards are for quilting storage really. But what I did do is we've put a curtain pole all the way across the top, and I'm going to have a hanging design wall. So I'm just going to get either a piece of fabric or a curtain. And that means I'll just be able to push the curtain over to the one end and it won't interfere with us getting access to the doors. That was the best solution that I could find, given the space, that there isn't many large walls, you know, they're taken up by these doors. I do have one of these rolling carts. You know, I think I got this one from Hobbycraft, but you can also get them from IKEA. And at the moment I'm just putting scraps of all of my low volumes in here. The top and the bottom is completely empty, so I'll probably, when I'm doing projects, put the projects in here, that type of thing. So I am making sure I'm keeping some space for expansion of the stash, but not much, unfortunately. Right then, let's start with this area and I'll give you a look in all the cupboards and talk you through what we've got in each one. So this one is fabric and also works in progress down the bottom. So I decided to store my fabric just folded up to each shelf. And these are all less than a metre, so I didn't want to do the foam board type of storage with these because there would just be so much. I usually buy fat quarters if I'm honest. So I started with white. These are all my low volume, so I've got whites and then more creamy colours. I thought it'd be best to separate them out. Don't get me wrong, there's still some creams in here, but vast majority of these are more whitey colours. And can you believe it? I think I've got more white than I have pink because this section here is red and then I've done darker pinks or brighter pinks and then lighter pinks. And then moving up to here, we've got purples, yellows and greens. Now, there's still plenty of room where I can thumb through everything and see what I've got, and I will try and keep it this nice and tidy. Up the top here, we've got blues, so I've done dark blues and then brighter blues. And then here are collections that I wanted to keep together. So these here is one collection, and then this isn't a collection, these are just like 30s fabrics that I really want to just keep together so I can collect enough to go in a quilt. And then right the way at the very top there, we've got yarn. I do need a step to get into these top cupboards, but there's all of my yarn, hand dyed and some commercially dyed yarns. And then as we come down, the organisation subsided and I didn't want to fold any more fabric. So here I've just put all of my solid fabrics. I don't have loads. I've got more of the pink. I actually bought the vast majority of these on a de-stash site on Facebook, so I got the majority of those together. But these are just great to add into projects. And then just coming down, I've got other fabrics that I wanted to keep together. So here I've got a bundle of fabrics that are like sewing related. And that actually comes with a gorgeous panel. So I wanted to keep those together so I can turn them into a quilt, perhaps with some solid fabric maybe would be nice. And then at the back there, some other fabrics that I bought recently that I thought went together. And then here I've got more oranges and greens. If you've watched my channel, you know that these are the colours that I typically make things for my sister. And then at the very back, we've got some greys. I think I've got 4 or 5 grey fabrics, so not a lot at all there. And then down in this very last hole, we've got some works in progress. So this is a Sashiko whip. This is my hometown quilt. And then these two here are fabric that I've kind of kitted together and is a whip for a Liberty quilt. And then down the very bottom here is I bought the pattern for the Mrs. Billings coverlet last year at the Festival of Quilts, and I've started gathering some fabric for it. So from that cupboard to this one, I've just got all of my patterns in here. So I've just got tons of patterns. There's no organisation in here. Some of them are kits, most of them are just patterns, and they're all just dumped in there. So this next tin that was on this shelf is all full of Liberty ribbons. Those are very small and thin strips of Liberty, sometimes great for tiny patchwork, but you'd be surprised how many things I actually use these for. Little ties for tying things, wrapping presents. They do actually come in handy, but some are bigger than others, and I bought these from Alice Caroline. So then moving up, this is a sewing box that houses a quilt that I'm making with my late grandma's clothes. I bought this print recently and I forgot to buy a frame for it when I was in IKEA, so I need to do that. That would look really nice on the wall. So I'm just keeping it there to remind me. Then moving up, I've done 2 shelves that are more decoration. So we've got Hannah the Hedgehog, a Laurie Holt bundle, and then a cream bundle underneath. 3 jelly rolls. Those are all the jelly rolls that I have, but I do need to start using them, don't I? And then this beautiful hand-dyed yarn. Isn't that just lovely with the sparkles in there? I don't think it says the name of the company on there. Oh, Dragon Hill Studio. There we go. And then moving up to this shelf, we've got some Tilda fabric. Now I know I should keep it behind the glass to protect it from the dust, but I'm going to try and use this fairly quickly in a quilt. But again, I wanted to keep it together rather than putting it in the colour coded arrangement that I've got just there. My sister wonderfully painted me this picture for my birthday, and I've got an old Quality Street tin that is full of buttons. Look at that, it's gorgeous, isn't it? These are salt and pepper shakers. Random, I know. And then going up here, we've got books, magazines, and just a little storage pot. All the way at the top there, we've got a vintage writing case and also a box of Liberty fabric. An empty shelf. I told you I've got room for expansion. And then here in this cupboard was all things that I want to keep together. So let's open it up. So these are Laurie Holt width of fabrics that I've got, that I bought again from D-Stash, and a Laurie Holt fat quarter bundle there. I'll be using these very soon, so how long they'll stay here, I'm not sure. If I want to admire them for a little bit longer. And some of you may know that I'm also a Riley Blake maker, so every month I make a project with their new fabrics, but sometimes I make it with their core range that they've got. So this is what I've got waiting here for a project. So this here, all of these ones, that's for one quilt project, and then another one here and another one here. This will be upcoming quite soon. So these, I think all of these are actually Laurie Holt basics that Riley Blake carry. Here I've got some, again, some more 30s style fabrics that I want to keep together, and a lovely rainbow bundle of Moda Grunge. Again, I keep telling myself that I'm going to use these fairly soon. And then moving across to here, I've just got a couple of bolts of fabric. We've got a creamy colour, a white, and then a teal. The reason I've got this white is because the Mrs. Billings quilts request 10 metres of background fabric, so I just bought a whole bolt. So let's have a look at these units here. In this top one, I've got all hand sewing supplies really. So I've got English paper piecing papers, I've got hexiform. These are all templates that I've got, so whether it be hexagon templates, some So Simple shapes, hand piecing templates, all sorts of things. And then I've just got loose templates. So my Dresden templates, and all just little ones that you end up with randomly. So this one is one of the more messier cupboards, but we all have to have those, don't we? So in this top section, I've got some bag hardware and some random scraps of fabric. I've got a bag of leather, a bag of wool scraps. So, you know, it's all a little bit random. Here in this white box, I've got felt pieces. And I've also got one of these like accordion style things where I'm storing all of my bag hardware. And then again, down the bottom here is more fabric that I wanted to keep together. So these are again 30s prints, but like playful cartoony prints that I just really love. So I wanted to keep them all together because again, I'm curating bits and pieces to go in a quilt. I've got some reclaimed fabric in there. And then here, not ideal, but where I'm storing my pre-cuts. So I've got charm packs there, open jelly rolls. I've got some of my open charm packs in these really good storage boxes that are from Missouri Star. So those are just in there. I feel like when you want a charm pack, you go specifically looking for a charm pack. So I don't mind having these sort of tucked away because I know where they are. They've got a purpose. They're all together. And same here, I've got some layer cake. Same thing, when you want a layer cake, you generally want a layer cake. So it's good to just have them tucked away. I know that I don't need to have them on display. Now moving across to the cupboard next to it, this is where the majority of the scraps are. I had these little storage boxes next to my dining table where I kept my scraps, and I thought it's going to be a good idea to keep my scraps in these 2 bins, and then I'm keeping them under control, aren't I? I'm not allowing this whole cupboard for pink scraps, because I would just fill it with scraps. So I know that I need to start using some of these. These are all coloured scraps in bags. So I've got blues, greens, greys, reds, all of those. The blues are actually the most that I've got in there, so I need to start using those up. This bag, I absolutely love buying these scraps. Basically, they're called snippets, and I get them from the quilt shows, and they are ever so thin pieces, but if you do a lot of foundation paper piecing, they are really good. And again, I just like to keep them in their bags, and they are just piled in there. Then in this cupboard, again, I've got fabrics that I wanted to keep together. That's quite a common theme, isn't it? So I've got fabric that I've purchased from Rose Garden Patchwork. So again, that's a really cutesy Japanese type of vibe. And then I've got Ruby Star fabrics. Some that is like kitted up for a project. I want to make a caddy, and then just fat quarters. But again, I didn't want to add them into the Gen Pop. I wanted to keep them separate. It was hard to try and find the storage solution for fabric that would be rainbow, and then just fabric that I wanted to keep together, because I knew there was going to be a mixture of the two. So now just moving up to this drawer, which is essentially next to where I sit. In this one side, I've just got handmade pouches that I've got, my needle book. That's a pouch with all of my rotary cutters. We've got pins, clips, all of those in there. And then I've got 2 tubs of thread. Rubbish thread at the front, nice thread there. Yeah, just cheaper thread here that I can use for hand basting and stuff. And then I've got my sewing thread. I know it's not organised, but it's going to work for now. And that's the thing, isn't it? It's going to have to work for now, because I've never had a sewing room set up before, so things will adapt as I go along. I know they will. I've tried really hard to think about what I practically want and what I need. Having had a little bit of a space downstairs, I knew what would work better for me, but it's going to be a bit of trial and error, and things will adjust. So you might see things that change over time. I might invest in some better storage pieces, but I think the furniture is pretty much here to stay. Can't afford any more furniture. So then just moving up from that, those drawers, I've got my ironing station here. Again, it'll be nice to just pivot from my sewing machine to my ironing station. So I'll be sewing there, and I can just roll down, or if I want to, just shuffle the sewing machine down if I find that that's a bit too much of a gap. So I've got my wool pressing mat, and a lesson that I learned from downstairs on the dining table is moisture goes through these mats and it will damage the surfaces below. So I've just put an old like rubber mat underneath, so that should stop the moisture. A nice big heavy clapper, my Elisa mini iron, because this is just going to be for ironing as I go, you know, ironing blocks and things like that. And I've got my big ironing board up the back there that I can use as well. And then I've also got my Sew Tights rotating cutting mat, which I will put then next to my sewing machine, and it'll just be a nice little station that I can move across. And then just here I've got a bookshelf, like I said, and I've just got some tools and things on here. Again, I'll probably end up adding more or taking some away, but I've got all of my scissors and rotary cutters. Those are the larger scissors. And then here, I was so excited to actually use this. I knew what I wanted to use it for straight away. So this was one of the gifts inside the Missouri Star advent calendar this Christmas. And I've put all of my sewing machine needles in there. And I've just got, you know, the normal notions. So moving up to the next shelf now. So I've just got some books that I'm using that are in process. I painted this little jar at Pottery Painting, so I thought that's a great place for my pens, because I am always losing my heat erasable pens and pencils and stuff. pincushion, little storage bits, just bits and bobs, you know. And then all the way at the top here, I've got my Liberty fabric storage. So this box holds larger cuts, so like fat quarters, and then this is real like scraps, so you know, 2.5 inch squares, that type of thing. I do want to put this on the wall. I'd like to fill this whole area with a gallery wall with mini quilts, so this will go on there, but I wasn't sure where to put it. So I've got one that I need to finish and get hung, so I'm going to wait till I've made a few more and then I'll put this on there. And then I've just got another sewing box on the top. Can't get enough of sewing boxes. So then just coming down to this little section, I've got my bowl of scraps. Again, I painted that at pottery painting. And then we've got this ruler storage. This was again from the Missouri Star Advent Calendar, and I thought it was great just to store all of my little rulers that I'll reach for trimming my blocks, just here next to my machine. And this is just a tin of a vintage radio. It's not a real radio, unfortunately. My sister bought me this for Christmas. I don't know if you can see it quite well because we're obviously looking into the light. It might have made it quite dark. Is that catching the light nicely? And I've just got that hung from the curtain pole. So then we've got my sewing machine. So I've got a Husqvarna Viking Designer Topaz 50. It's an absolutely brilliant machine. So there we go. A confetti quilted mat underneath my machine, but I'm thinking I might make a longer mat to go across most of the desk just to protect it. I've got a good old IKEA little tray here just for, you know, clips, things, my cup of coffee. Now on the side of these drawers I've got my ruler storage. I can't remember the exact name of this rail, but I think it's about 50 something centimetres long. And then I've got these different type of hooks rather than the S hooks, because you can only fit one ruler on the S hook, and these are a little bit easier to get your ruler off. So I've got my rulers, and then I've also got some embroidery hoops. And then I've got larger rulers and some smaller cutting mats. And then just coming down from the sewing machine, I've got my desk sitting on these drawers. I don't know why it doesn't even look like it's sitting on them. It's got little cushion pads here, so that's fine there, but it has gone up a bit there. I'll have to tell my partner about that, but we've got a desk leg in the middle, so it should be fine. It'll all start settling down, won't it? So we've got these drawers here. Ignore the labels, they're wrong. So in here I've just got tools, the bits and pieces for my sewing machine, all of these wooden tools that you end up using. Loads of people said don't overload these drawers because they're not very strong. So in here I've got zips, purse clasps, and then just little cute things like accessories for zip pulls and bags. I fear that this could be a little bit of a junk drawer, but we've got fusible interfacing, rope for rope bowls, little bits of cross stitch. I always buy those but never end up doing them. Ribbons. And then tools, so hole punches, glue guns, heat guns, stuff that you end up needing. And then from there we go over this side, and this is where I've got the design wall and my drawers. Just on top of that cupboard, that's where I put my Missouri Star Advent box. It's just got some storage boxes in there, so that's holding everything quite nicely. Just in the back corner, this is where I keep my small design boards. A lot of people always ask about these. These are a tutorial by Laurie Holt. My sister bought me this sewing box years and years ago now for my birthday, I think it was. And in there I've put all of my pearl cotton threads and my Gutterman hand quilting thread, because I really like using this Gutterman thread. On the top here I have got a cutting mat. I need to invest in another one because this one warped in the sun because, yeah, shouldn't have put it in the sun. But underneath the drawers, that is the only place where I can store my large cutting mat. So that one's an A0 cutting mat, so it's just under there. Doesn't bother me that you can see it. And when I need to use that, I'll either put it on the desk or cut the fabric on the floor. But I thought this surface was great to have a dedicated space that will be clear, because you know sometimes your desk isn't always clear for cutting, but I can just stand here. It's a nice height for standing. So these drawers then, these ones are full. This is yardage. So I've got quilt backings. So these are a lot of the cotton satines that Rainbow Fabrics use. A lot of them are enough to do a quilt backing, but some of them are, again, fabrics that I've got yardage of that I've put together for a quilt. This one is going to be a red Indian block printed. And then I've got others that are here that are like a metre or so. Didn't want to put them in with the fat quarters. I've got yardage of low volume fabrics. And that drawer is very heavy. I'm scared that the bottom of it will fall through. Now this one is similar. So here I've got loads of half square triangles that are needing something doing with. So I'm just collecting them in there. That's the white fabric for a quilt that I'm working on. More white fabric. I mean, look how gorgeous that is. I bought that from Missouri Star. And then we've got other bits and pieces of fabrics, yardage, random stuff that didn't fit anywhere. And then here are old subscription boxes, block of the month. So I've got one from Sew and Quilt and one from Queen of Fabric. So they're just stored there and I'll work through them. No doubt when they're gone, I'll sign up to another one. Now into the bottom drawer. The bottom drawer is even more random. So here I've got little baskets of things. These are my leaders and enders. It's a lot of projects in this bottom drawer. More whips. I need more storage for my whips than I do the fabric. So another project there, another project there. And then these are bits that I've actually like kitted up. So that's a quilt that I want to make with my hometown fabric. More projects back there. Here we've got a indigo dyed fabric set that I want to use as a quilt, and I've got that grey fabric that will go really nicely with it. This is all my doll and teddy making stuff. I've got a few kits here, patterns here in the side, and then a fat quarter bundle with some extras that I've put on the top. If you've watched a recent video, you'll know my plans for that. So I think that's the last drawer. So yes, I guess you could describe some of the drawers as somewhat chaotic, but yeah, organised, because I've only just put the stuff in there. For now, I know where everything is. Things will get pulled out. You know what it's like. You pull everything out, don't you, to get to one thing. But hopefully I'll be able to maintain something that works. But like I said, it's trial and error for the time being, isn't it? I hope you've enjoyed this video. I hope you can share the excitement, and you know how excited I am to have a dedicated space. I am so fortunate to have that. If you have any tips about keeping my sewing room clean, please leave them in the comments below. There'll probably be a tidy my sewing room video coming soon. Maybe that will be on Patreon or my Instagram. So until the next time I see you in this wonderful room, you take care and happy quilting. Bye.